Welcome back to Boys and Ghouls Film Review, folks. I am your host, Sarah Stephenson. This is my co-host, Mike Stephenson.
Hi, guys.
Yeah.
Now, before we say anything or do anything, right, over the past couple of weeks, we've been getting by on a portable digital recorder because our mixing desk died. Well, the power supply died anyway. We have since received one in the mail, and it's plugged in, and we're back to our old gear again. We got a real mixing desk with real microphones, so hopefully our quality is going to be a tad better. Okay, now, what have we got tonight, Sarah?
Well, tonight we will be reviewing the Titanic miniseries, or mini-movie,
it was a two-part
TV movie thing.
Yeah, two-part TV mini-series. That was done in, 1996, was it?
Yeah, 1 year before the James Cameron Titanic movie came out.
Yeah, interesting, isn't it?
It's really interesting.
Maybe he got the idea, got stimulated, or maybe he was doing it
or
at the
maybe
time.
At the time he was already doing it, considering the amount of workload.
I don't know why do it so many times people do things about the same time and...
The mind boggles. It's just like when
mind is always boggled.
It's just like when they made Aladdin stage TV movie thing, and it was the year before Disney did their own Aladdin one. So it kind of went under the radar, that one, technically.
So go on. Our usual crap. Okay. Produced by Harold Lee Titchener and Rocky Lang. Directed by Robert Lieberman. I know that name, Robert Lieberman. He's done other things, I think. I can't remember myself. I'll check. Written by Ross Lamana and Joyce Eliason. I think that's the right pronunciation. Now, this version... Okay, the reason why we're doing the Titanic. People say, why are you doing that?
Well...
You want to tell them why we're doing it?
Well, guys, you may have noticed we have a lot of national disasters, whether it's fires, floods, or things like that, or even a virus. And usually that's a lot scarier than a monster in your closet sort of thing. So this is one of the reasons why we are doing this. And another reason is that we're at the moment, at this month is April, and this is where... the Titanic sort of, first did sail and then crashed.
It died. It sank, whatever, on the 15th of April, 1912. But having said that, on the 15th of April, there's a Titanic movie called Titanic 666. Now, you would think with Titanic 666, it's not going to be a straight movie, and you are correct. It's a horror movie. However,
so this is like So what we're trying to do is, I guess, an anniversary.
Yeah, an anniversary thing in memory of the people who died and in celebration of the new movie. How's that?
True.
That sound good?
Yeah, we're also going to probably look at reviewing Titanic 2.
That was done. When was that? That was
2010 or 2011.
2010, I think. Yeah. Now we might do that next time or in the very near future.
Yeah. See, that's not. That one takes. That's just so you guys know. There's a real Titanic 2 out there, but I don't know if they. I don't think there were. But I think the investors who worked on it. Pulled out and it's not, and I don't think it's being released or anything like that.
Cares?
It's not really important, guys.
Who cares?
It's anyway. This is
about
this one.
Let's move right along.
Yes.
Okay. Pretty much, we won't go with it, but obviously Sarah will tell you the story about it in a minute. But the Titanic movies are all usually about the boat, the people on it, the boat singing. So. It's just what they do with the side stories and character developments. And this one is not a bad movie. Anyway,
this one digs deeper into the character development.
Some of the personal stuff.
To the real characters, the real people that may have suffered during this crisis. Or may not suffer, how they cope with it.
Yeah, like instead of that, in James Cameron movie, they referred to Mr. Astor, the rich guy. In this movie, his relationship with his new bride is brought into the storyline as well. So they brought some real people in there. The Allisons with the little baby, they're real people. Yeah, they actually brought some real people who were on there and actually brought them in the storyline.
Yes, true.
Which made it give it a bit more sense of reality.
Exactly.
Now here we go. A few of the cast it was a bit like Cecil B. DeMille, a cast of thousands. But here we go. Now, Catherine Zeta-Jones plays Isabella Paradine. She's coming back from England after burying her auntie or something or other. She's dressed in black. She wasn't married to her. Don't know why she's in black. Anyway.
Hey, she's a relative. I mean...
So what? Guys don't dress in black after...
Hey, incidentally, guys, just last week, as you may have heard, my aunt died, and I kind of, I know what she must have gone through a little bit. You know, losing a loved one is painful when I think about it.
I'm not dressed in black, and she was my sister, okay? I'm sitting here in a pair of brown shorts and no shirt on because it's hot, okay?
Yeah, but it's still a painful thing, you know.
I know it is, but why dress in black?
And why for 6 months?
Yeah, for 6 months or whatever. Yeah, right. A lot of Italians used to do that. The older ones, if someone died in a family, and the wife or the old lady would dress in black and dark brown for the rest of her life. Hello.
Anyway,
moving right along. Catherine Zeta-Jones plays that lady. Now, Peter Gallagher, good at handsome man. He plays Wen Park. That's her old flame. She meets on the boat and they sort of rekindle their relationship.
Oh, that's another thing, guys. Wasn't he in, let me see, 2 other movies we reviewed in the past?
I think so. He looks familiar.
Yeah, guys, I remember him in, what was it called? House on Haunted Hill. He played lover to Price's wife.
Yeah, I think that was him. Yeah.
And he was in, what's it called? High Spirits, I think it was.
Yeah, he played one of the guests.
Yeah, who was a priest or whatever.
Yeah, yes, he was. He's a priest. That's right. Yeah. Okay, moving right along.
Go on.
George C. Scott plays Captain Smith. I think he did a pretty good job there.
Yeah, he's a good depiction.
Now, I won't mention everybody else. There's quite a lot, but there's a couple of people. Eva Marie Saint has a role in it. She plays Hazel Foley. And Tim Curry plays Simon Doonan, who's a naughty person who works for the White Star Line. Yeah. He's almost a criminal. He's not very nice. I won't go through all the other people in it because they have lots of other people involved here. There's a lady called Mary Lou Henner who plays Margaret Brown, Molly Brown, the young singable Molly Brown, and she plays a really good part, and she annoys the crap out of the people.
Yeah, that's another thing. That Mike will tell you that they did, say, 17 versions of Titanic. That included...
Can I get on to telling it later on?
And I guess that includes, they did a musical...
Why don't you take all my information and tell everybody before I tell it to them?
Yeah, I'm just telling these guys that they did a musical called The Unsinkable Molly Brown. And
I done a movie about it, and I write a book about it.
And I heard that it starred the actress who was actually Carrie Fisher's mum.
Well, okay, Mrs. Fisher. Right now, what I was going to say is, I will mention one other person. Mike Doyle plays Jamie Pierce, who plays a role in one of the stories here. He's a street kid who's a pickpocket and stuff, and he gets on the boat by stealing someone's ticket.
Yeah.
And he has a love interest played by Sonsi Hare. See, Osa Ludvigsen is the person she's meant to be. And now they're probably not real people.
No, they're made up for this movie.
Yeah. But a lot of people in this movie, this TV series, are based on the real people who were actually on the boat at the time. Yeah, a lot of the people were. So, interesting.
Although I often heard of stories where they mistaken people's identities. Maybe someone stole someone's ticket and then that person is depicted as dead, but in reality has lived a long life. Considering
you've already let the cat out of the bag of some of my statistics. Yeah, there was 17 films. The first one was made in 1912. The first several were obviously silent movies, and they got into the talkies. Now, 2 of them, which I saw when I was younger, many years ago, was a 1953 movie, American-made movie, with Clifton Webb and Barbara Stanwyck in it. That was called Titanic, obviously. And a couple of years later, in 1958, A Night to Remember. That was the British version of it with Kenneth More. And I think the English version was better. It concentrated a little bit more on the boat and the sinking thereof and whatever, whereas the Titanic movie of Clifton Webb was more about the drama between the people on the boat. Now, going on from there, we had a year after this movie we're going to review in a moment, along came James Cameron's version, which was very, very good. I'm not knocking James Cameron.
Yeah, he's a brilliant filmmaker.
He's very good. He's done many, many good things. Now, there's been 24 documentaries done on it. And you know why? Because it's real. People are interested. I won't list them all. There's too many to go through.
Yeah, and you probably may have heard me mention them in the past.
Okay, and you keep mentioning things while I'm talking. Okay, thank you. Now, and television movies and notable episodes where Titanic's been mentioned, numbers 26. 26, and that includes the very first time tunnel episode with James Darren and who was in it?
Yeah,
I can't remember now. The very, very first one had them on the Titanic. They tried to warn them, and guess what?
Bam.
Didn't bloody work, did it? No.
Nope.
So,
I mean,
it still sank.
It still sank, and I don't think it would. If we ever were able to make a time machine and went back to that period, I don't think people would believe us. They would call us skeptical and arrest us.
Yeah, it was James Darren and Robert Colbert. Yeah. And so it shows up all over the place because people like a good story, and nothing beats reality. Yeah.
As I said before,
no matter how much they're corrupted by Hollywood and other people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, do you want to take over now telling this story there, Ren?
Yes, I might as well, guys. So the story begins with our nanny. What's her name? That would be, what's her name again? The
Alice.
Alice.
Yeah.
And she has a bit of a mental past where she.
She killed her own baby. Because she got pregnant, and the child's father buggered off, and she was stressed out, had a mental breakdown, and she had a mental breakdown and destroyed the baby.
Yeah, so lucky enough, a friend of the family found her a job as a nanny, working for the what are they called? The Allison. What's the
the Allison family who are going to leave England and go back to Canada, I think.
Yeah. So she's organised to prepare to look after their two children, a little girl and a little baby named I don't know.
Buglugs. There you go, moving right along.
Anyway, moving on. The other person who's in this is Catherine Zeta-Jones' character. What's her name? Isabel, I'm going to call her.
Yeah, Isabella Paradine.
And she's married to this wonderful man.
Who's not on the boat.
No. He's somehow back in America somewhere.
Now, she went over to England for her aunt's funeral or something.
Yeah.
No, she was looking after her before she died.
Yeah, so she's been there, and she's in mourning for 6 months or so, looking after her aunt's final affairs, which were a mess.
Whatever.
Anyway, so she, along with a love interest, who's named, what's his name? Let me see. Wynn Park, who was a lovey-dovey interest before she got married to her current husband.
And actually, he wasn't good enough. Her family didn't think he was good enough for her, so they lined up a marriage for her, this slightly more mature gentleman.
Yes.
Who loves her very dearly, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, so she's going to go back to America, and he starts following her on the same boat.
Like a little puppy. Aww.
Yeah, and our final person on this jolly married boat is, let me see, Jamie, a pickpocket, as Mike put it, who's trying to escape authorities and try to pursue a new life off in America.
Yeah, so he meets this guy in a bar, Mr. Dickey, and he's really salubrious, getting drunk and everything. And he's saying, I'm going to go on the boat to America and say, "Duck money, here's my ticket," and blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I don't think Jamie was actually going to steal the ticket.
Not
but this guy got so bloody drunk and fell down drunk, he couldn't even wake him up. So he said, well, he's going to probably miss the boat anyway. So he took his ticket and his wallet and went on the boat.
Yeah.
Not bad. No passport and no visa.
Yeah. He also meets the corrupt person who works for the White Star Line, what's his name? Simon, who works for them, and he's a very bent guy, and he sees through dear old Jamie's...
Simon Doonan, played by Tim Curry. You know what Tim's like. A nice cheeky smile.
Yeah. So, anyway, that's our the main characters for now. The rest of the characters you may have heard of. You heard of Captain Smith. You heard of
Mr. Ishmael, whatever.
John Jacob Astor, and let me see. You heard of the what's his name?
Mr. Ishmael.
Mr. Ishmael, who was the creator of the Titanic, or not the creator.
Well,
he's
he's
the
in charge
owner
of the
of
company,
the White
yeah,
Star
yeah,
Line.
yeah.
The guy whom you may have heard of, Mr. Andrews, is not in this production, sadly.
No, not in this production. He doesn't have to be in every movie.
No. It's not important.
Anyway, moving right along.
So we then load our stars onto the boat. Everyone is happy. Everyone is getting themselves organised, and they get
The
on.
Love Boat. Sorry.
Yeah. So
Sorry.
everyone's loaded onto the boat, and there are a few people, like there's a crazy woman saying, this is a boat.
This boat will sink to the bottom of the ocean. Yeah. How right they were, these soothsayers, hey?
Yeah, Mike was saying to me, reminding me of how the Titanic was. What was it you said? There was another boat they were building at the same
They had
time.
two boats. I think one was the Titanic and the other one was the Titan. Now, I have not had any collaboration on this for some years now. I do believe that what actually happened is the Titanic was not ready to sail. Mm-hmm. So the sister ship, the Titan, they changed the name on it to Titanic and sent the Titan out as Titanic, and they changed the Titanic's name to Titan.
Yeah.
They swapped the boats around.
So back to the story,
Interesting,
guys. So Isabel runs into another wealthy family, or a grandpa and grandpa, who are looking after their little granddaughter, and she's a total she's a total jerk,
upper class bitch.
snob.
Yeah.
She's like, over there is these wealthy people. The other ones,
And
like,
that one's new money. We don't like that one over there.
she's referring to Molly Brown, and as you may all know, she was new money, and not many society people liked her.
Because she was a bit rough around the edges.
Yeah,
a country girl. Yeah.
Yeah, so they didn't like her too much.
Rather outspoken. Yeah.
She was rather interesting.
Anyway, the story. We got all night.
Okay, sorry. Anyway, eventually Jamie comes on board, and he meets a nice family named Jax. I think Jax.
Yeah, Jax.
Yeah, and along with a nice girl, comes his love interest. What's her name again?
Usa Lungula. Here we go.
What these people's names are so hard to pronounce.
No. How to pronounce it?
Oh gosh.
Usa Ludvigsen. Yes. Yeah, she's
Usa,
European.
Yeah.
And very attractive girl.
Usa, whatever her name's. She is smitten by Jamie, and of course she knows him as Dickie.
Well, he's going on a false name.
Yeah.
As per his ticket.
Yeah, at the beginning he gives him a false name, saying his name's Dickie something or other.
Mr. Dickie. His last name is Dickie.
Yeah, and Simon, who's one of the porters on deck on the Titanic, sees through his act, and he won't.
He recognised him from the pub.
And he won't blab what he's doing on there, and because he wants him to become a bit of a accomplice to stealing
Mr. Simon Doonan wants to steal lots of money in jewels from passengers.
Yeah.
But the night before they're getting ready to get off.
Yeah. See, Michael was. We were talking about this in the past, how the society people may not have wanted to store their jewelry in safes on board, so they kept some of their jewelry in their rooms.
Yeah, well, they kept some in their rooms, but they did store stuff with the purser or whatever you call them. Well, he actually stole the keys as well, so he get a copy of the keys, so we could actually go into all the safe custody boxes and empty them. So he was going to take everything and hide it.
Yeah.
And being a trusted staff member of the White Star Line, would they suspect him?
No. Because he's worked there for so many years.
Yeah.
So no one will suspect him.
No.
Anyway, so they go. The boat is on its way. Everyone is in good swing.
Yay.
And of course, Isabel is not too thrilled that her old boyfriend is in her company all the time.
Initially.
Yeah, he's become more wealthy, and she gets a little jealous with the with some of the wealthy people, with one of the wealthy people dancing with him, and they eventually do get to know each other again.
And they rekindle their relationship.
Yeah.
With lots of firewood, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, they start hanging out, and
hanging in.
And
That's right.
she talks about her daughter, how close she is, and how much her daughter is like her, and all that stuff. And she wishes that she could go back in time to maybe start all over again with him, with her old flame. Unfortunately, she doesn't seem to have too many options. She even combines with Mrs.
John Astor's new
Astor's wife,
who's also a bit ostracised because of
most of the people who gossip behind her back tell behind her back that she should be she's in labour, she's younger than him. A lot younger.
I think his original wife died or something rather than he got remarried to.
I think he divorced her. I think that's what it said in this movie.
He's no longer married to the original one. He got a new one.
Yeah, and so she's ostracized by everyone in her company, or in his company. Anyway, he feels this, and he still loves her. He wants to look after her, and her maidservant is a really well-loved, well-respected lady who wants to look after her too. Anyway, back to the story. Anyway, meanwhile, Jamie, the little thiefy guy, he decides to go up to first class to try to drum up some business.
Leonardo DiCaprio did something, didn't he?
Yeah, only in this case he didn't sneak into the laundry.
Oh.
Well, he stole someone's jacket, but that's not the same thing. Anyway, so he steals a tuxedo and he heads to the the lounge, the bar.
The bar, and meet Mr. Astor himself.
Yeah.
Having a drink with him.
And he stole his wallet for a brief time.
Well, he just can't help himself.
Eventually, Simon tells him that he saw him sneak the wallet.
Sorry, he said, give it back. And I'll tell him it'll be found on the floor and give it back to him. Yeah. He got bigger fish to fry later on anyway.
Oh, yes. Anyway, back to the story. The new maid, what's her name? Alice is not doing so well because she's her mental disturbances are starting to affect her.
Before she got the job to go and be the nanny for these people, she was having dreams about people in the water, dead and or drowning. And this started to get more and more as she's on the boat.
Yeah, I think Mike...
So she's psychic.
Yeah, I think Mike mentioned one time that maybe she made a premonition.
Yes, she knew something was going to go on. And some people do. Strange.
Yeah, anyway, she acts up and the family are thinking about sending her back, but, when they got to Ireland, see that most of the people were getting off at Ireland.
Yeah, they left Southampton, was it?
Yeah, they left Southampton.
And they were going to pop into Ireland, Dublin or somewhere, and then go across the Atlantic.
That was never mentioned in James Cameron's movie so much. It said they thought they were heading off to sea, and they didn't mention any stops along the way too much.
They would have stopped there, but there wasn't part of the storyline he needed to put in.
Yeah, so there's mention of stopping off, but unfortunately she eventually tells the Mr. Allison that to allow her to continue working till they get to America. Yeah. And eventually he gives in and decides to give her one last chance.
And then obviously the night of the the iceberg, she really starts to panic trying to save the children and the elephants.
Yeah, see what behind the scenes,
but no one believes her.
I guess the first mate or the second mate, whatever, he suggests to get the lookouts binoculars so that they could, because they've been train them back and forth, and they thought there's no harm in getting the binoculars from the crow's nest or whatever.
Anyway,
and they didn't see any danger factors in this.
Everyone knows the Titanic story.
I know.
Don't dwell on too many little bits.
We do hear that Captain Smith hears from his men that Mr. Esme, he's been trying to move the boat a little bit faster again.
Because he wanted to beat the record and get it a day early, so it would be good for advertising to get more people to go on his boat.
Yeah, ridiculous. I would have told him that. Anyway, so anyway,
Idiot. Yeah.
so the boat continues on, and Isabel, regretfully enough, decides to send a telegram to her hubby back in America to tell her that she wants to leave him and be with her own love interest.
Her original lover, yeah.
And she kind of regrets this halfway all through this next part of this movie, I should mention.
Probably.
So this is where the Titanic starts to crash into the iceberg. And unfortunately, the first mate tries to turn, avoids it, but he ignored the cardinal rule about this sort of thing.
He would be better off going straight into the iceberg and damaging the front of the boat instead of ripping out a dirty great big hole in the side of the boat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, in this one, everyone heard the noise, and even though, according to records, no one heard the noise so much because, well, it would be underneath the water.
The noise would have been deadened. You would have felt a bit of a knock and a vibration, maybe. More.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, the only thing they probably would not hear is the engine stopping.
Well, yeah, the engine would have stopped. Oh, why we stopped? Oh, must be a problem with the motor.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Of course, Captain Smith has been given reports about plenty of reports on warnings about field ice, which means you must it's dangerous to go out there.
Gee, when they're going too fast, funny that. Yeah.
Yes, he then eventually orders his men to start getting the passengers ready to assemble them together to get them off the boat. Of course, like we mentioned in the past, there is a bit of a problem with the lifeboat situation. We don't have many.
Yeah, they've had enough for about half the people, I think.
Yeah, it's enough for the trade, enough lifeboats for the trade thingy-wing. Unfortunately, that was
within the guidelines.
Within the guidelines.
Whatever said you need so many boats. But there wasn't enough. There was enough there for about half the people on the boat, and they didn't even fill them up properly. So they saved about a third of them or something.
Yeah. So
not good.
Yeah.
Not on that bloody boat.
Yeah. So things start falling apart. Eventually, the maidservant Alice, she tries to warn her employers about this, but they continue to think she's acting crazy.
They think she's going off her tits.
Yeah. She eventually starts sitting up. She gets her clothes on, and remarks that people are going to be drowning and suffering, and she doesn't want the kids to suffer. And when she tries, they finally do get called up by the stewards. See, the stewards, they have less knowledge of what's going on.
They weren't told everything.
Yeah, but anyway, they eventually wake up, and the mum panics. Like, she starts saying, make sure they get the nappies, make sure they get the TV ring, all that stuff, the toys.
Yeah, no freaking on. The boat's going to blow all sink.
Yeah, technically, the boats won't not allow that sort of stuff on board their boats. They would probably chuck it out because they need to make room for passengers. Isn't that right, Mike?
Well, your teething ring and stuff,
Yeah.
The baby's going to need something.
Yeah.
But
Alice quickly scrabbles and picks up baby Trevor. That's his name, Baby Trevor.
Hey,
and
Trevor.
and
Great name,
quickly escapes out through the door. And of course, the mum panics, keeps yelling for him to don't forget his TV ring, his cotton ball for his ears. Yeah, all that stuff doesn't really matter at this point. It's
Alice
life
wants
and
to
death.
Save the baby.
Yeah, she tries to call out for him for the husband in the hallway, but he doesn't hear her. So
she's going up the stairs and he's coming down the stairs.
Yeah.
There's too many people there. He doesn't hear her or see her.
Yeah, so she goes onto the deck and she gets onto one of the available lifeboats.
And saves the little baby. Yay!
And meanwhile, Isabel when she gets loaded onto a lifeboat, she tells her love interest that her daughter Claire, is actually his daughter. Meaning before she got married, she must have been pregnant already.
Isn't that lovely?
Yeah, and he was a bit miffed that he won't see her again, and this is a big chance.
He'll never see his daughter.
Yeah, that's a shame. Eventually, let me see. Oh yeah, Jamie and Simon, they start locking the doors, or at least Simon is, because he's the White Star Line guy. He has the skeleton keys, whatever, and he start unlocking passenger rooms, the wealthy class, to get the jewelry, the money, anything
fine.
Yeah, and he lets slips that Simon took advantage of Jamie's love interest.
Yeah, he raped her in the showers.
Yeah, it was horrible. And it's the worst scene I've ever seen since I've seen Psycho.
He's a nasty dude. He plays a good nasty dude, doesn't he? Yeah.
Eventually, Simon and Jamie scuffle, and
Scuffle.
and Simon gives him a whack, and he leaves the first class. And Jamie quickly tries to scuffle up and tries to get his love interest and the Jacks out of the second class. First class. Not first class. Third steerage class. See,
the one down the bottom of the oars.
Yeah. The orderlies. They've locked the gates and preventing anyone from the third class to get out.
You had the rats and the steerage all together.
Yeah, not really good.
No.
Anyway, he finally persuaded the porters to allow some of the women and children out. Yeah. Unfortunately, they didn't let out the Jacksons, which is not really right when I think about it. They should have let out. They should have let out everyone.
They should have kept the door open as went. But no, they were very nice people. Yeah.
Anyway, eventually, Jamie found a lifeboat and put her into the boat, and along with Isabel and along with Isabel in that situation, Simon sneaks aboard dressed as a woman and sneaks on board unnoticed by the other guys. Unbeknownst
to everybody, under his garments he has all those bags with jewelry and stuff and money and he can be good when he gets to New York, isn't he?
Oh yes, right, not. So anyway, by the time the boats are all gone, the Allison's family, they're still scuffling around trying to find their baby.
And the baby, and they realise
that she's already gone, and everyone else's boats are gone too.
And there's no boats for them, so Mr. and Miss Allison and the remaining child were going to go down with the ship.
Yeah, what a drag.
But of course, the mother was so really stupid in the beginning.
Yeah, she didn't realise that maybe they took been smart and left the boat already.
It wouldn't even bother. She could have gone with Alice and taken the two kiddies up there, and they could have been both on the boat.
Yeah, true.
No.
Yeah, anyway, so everything's falling apart around Captain Smith. Somehow he tried to signal the boat that, the Californian that was so far away, but still won't respond to their things.
It wasn't that far away, a couple of miles away, and they just ignored it.
Yeah, they kept...
Oh, you really don't know what happened on that boat.
Me neither.
They've had tribunals and stuff. If they thought there was a problem, you would think they would have woken their radio operator up, says, turn on the radio, have a listen, and see if there's any distress calls coming out.
Yeah,
and it's never shown up in any movie or anything else.
They do mention now in this movie that they had white flares, and which the distress flares have to be red.
Yeah, but they didn't have distress flares because they didn't think they needed them on this boat. Because it's supposed to be unsinkable.
Talk about lazy thinking.
No, lame.
And while Captain Smith is in the control room, one of his men comes up and approaches him if he would like to take his chance of getting away, and he remarks about a previous Greek mythology story about the Titans and God.
And God killed the Titans. The lesser gods, or whatever, the old gods, whatever.
Go on, tell them.
I don't know the full story of the Titans.
See, the Titans, they challenged the gods, and
then they got squished by the god.
Yeah.
That's it. Finished.
Yeah.
Move along.
That's where the Titanic's name and the other Titanic's name came from. After all, the media kept making out this is an unsinkable boat, and God himself would not sink this boat.
God himself
and somehow I think it challenged God's authority when you think about it.
Well, the media said that. Yeah.
It's their fault.
The media.
I don't know.
Moving on.
Anyway, so back to the story. The boat sinks plump into the water, and this is where I should mention something interesting here.
This is the first time the boat snapped in half.
This is the first time in this movie that they brought to the attention to the audience that the boat snapped in two.
Yeah. So when it was going down, I don't know, boat terms, the front was going down and taking water on. Mm-hmm. When the back end of the boat, bow or whatever, was going up in the air, it couldn't support its own weight, so it snapped in two about halfway along the boat.
All the movies before this movie and before James Cameron's version came out, everyone assumed that the Titanic sank whole.
Yeah, it didn't.
But it didn't.
I think about that same time they found out they must had some mini subs go down there and took some footage. They realised it had broken off. and that's why they started showing up that way, I think.
Yeah, there was even a movie, you probably may have heard me mention it, about where they called The Rise of the Titanic, where... And
The
Raise the Titanic.
Yeah.
And in that one, they brought the whole Titanic in, up to the surface, raising it and all that stuff, and we're able to tow it back to America and all that stuff.
Which is a lot of bullshit.
Yeah, because that would be impossible, because there's a...
It's in 2 pieces.
It's in 2 pieces now. Anyway, back to the story.
Carry on.
So the boat sinks to the bottom and completely destroying the whole system, and Isabel tries to coax one of the guys who was in charge of her boat to go back and try to look for survivors. Unfortunately, Simon doesn't want this and says it will just sink the boat, even though, as we pointed out in the past, most of the boats were filled half full. Isn't that right, Mike?
Yeah, most of them. They did. Oh, we'll
15,
put more people
20
in later on.
Instead of
off the ramps. No one ever did.
No one ever did. They've never thought of it.
So what they had is half-empty rowboats out there, and I think they saved about 700 people out of over 2,000 on people or something like that.
Yeah, they were not really bright. Anyway, Simon tries to stop them, and... what's her name? I can't really pronounce her name.
The girl.
Lisa. Eventually confronts him and says, "You raped me. He laid hands on me, all that stuff." And he then...
Simon gets a gun out.
Yeah. Simon slaps her and she falls into the water.
And floats away.
And luckily enough, Isabel and the first mate guy try to pull her back in. Yeah. And unfortunately, Simon pulls out a gun. And eventually, the guy takes an oar and swings into his head.
And it hits him in the head, and breaking his neck, mind you, but not bad. And he falls into the water and floats away, and you see a trail of money and stuff.
Yeah, you see stocks and bombs, and maybe some of the jewelry. I'm not sure, maybe not unintentionally.
Well, he got what he wanted. He's a rich man, but he's now dead.
Yes, talk about waste of money.
Anyway, moving right
along. Jamie... before I mention this, Jamie helps a lot of the survivors, and he got knocked onto the boat in one of the...
And he got a broken arm out of it and everything else.
And he never saved the Jacksons, who are now... The Jacks from being in the... who died on the Titanic or in the water.
Well, they couldn't get off the boat. By the time they got out, all the boats
were gone. So sad.
They just sat there on deck and...
praying to God.
And praying and stuff,
Yeah. Anyway, so soon enough... The Carpathian arrives. They arrive and eventually signal, with the flares, and they eventually waved and yelled as much as they can to get them to see that where the boats were.
And in the morning, they started collecting the dead, what they could find floating around, and they took them back to, where was it?
Before we get to that,
Halifax.
Before we get that. To there. Eventually, Elizabeth's love interest, they do find his body, but he's already frozen to death.
He's a popsicle.
And she tries to make out he's still alive. He's just really cold.
No, she's just denying it's not making out he's still alive.
Yeah, I know. She's
in denial. She knew he was dead and didn't want anyone to say the word. He snuffed it. And Miss Astor, she tries to find her husband, but I imagine he's a goner too, sadly enough. He could have been in the other room, the other guy's having a last drink. I think he was at the bar, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was in the bar with the bartender and
some of the other guys.
And drinks were all around.
Drinks. Free drinks. Yeah, well, they're going to go down. So, and the barman was getting stuck in, wasn't he?
Yeah, true. It was nice of him. Anyway,
drinking's bad for you. You shouldn't drink.
Yeah, Isabel confronts the wealthy lady whose husband was on a lifeboat too. I should mention.
He snuck in
along with her stupid dog.
The dog didn't sneak in.
Yeah.
He was carried in by his mummy.
See, one of the guys, the first mates or second mates, tells her that you cannot have your dog on board, all that stuff. But she says he'll be on my lap. But Isabel tells her, who was your husband?
Whose lap was your husband sitting on? Yeah.
Yeah, and she's all about, I lost everything. I lost my powder. I look like a mess. Don't you see how much I've lost?
Yeah, upper class bitch. Yeah.
Yeah, when everyone around her has lost their love interest, their love interests,
their husbands and sons and daughters and people all didn't get off the boat. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, Isabel then confronts Jamie and tells him that how did you sneak on board? And he says that it was an accident and he feels guilty for being there. He feels like he doesn't deserve to be on this boat.
Yeah.
And he feels like he would trade his own life to save one of those other dead souls.
Save the people, yeah.
Eventually does find his love interest, who, as it turns out, was saved by Isabel and one of the boat.
Who was nursing it? Was it Molly?
Yeah, Molly Brown.
Oh, yeah, Molly Brown was trying to get some soup into it.
Yeah, she was saved, and it was happy, and that the couple was happy to be together.
Yeah.
And then we flash to where they get to the final. Yeah, New York, and Isabel is a little sad that she's worried that her husband got the telegram she sent.
She and her husband telegram earlier saying, "I want divorce."
Yeah, and she now feels like she's hurt the two other people she loves that still live here, that's still alive. Her husband and her little girl.
And they showed up there, and he never got the email. He never got the telegram.
See, another interesting thing was the telegram office. They had so many telegrams coming in and out.
They never got around to sending it.
And they probably wouldn't have had time because considering the emergency messages they had to send too.
Yeah, so they stopped sending messages, started saying help, help, help. Everything else didn't matter. So,
so
she's lucky.
Yeah, and
so she saved her marriage by sinking a boat.
Yeah. Meanwhile, also her friend, what's her name, Mrs. Astor. She was worried that her husband's sons would not come pick her up because they considered her as a bad example.
Not a bad example.
Well, that they didn't like her.
They didn't like her because their mother died or he's got divorced, and Mr. Astor, he went overseas a holiday, met this girl, got married, and was bringing her back home to be their new mummy.
Yeah. Also,
they wanted the money for themselves when Daddy died.
Alice, the lady, the nanny, I should mention, she eventually arrives at the port, and the police are there, including Astor's maid servant, who recognized her in the movie because she looked in the newspapers and knew about her history. And she eventually had to finally hand over the baby to Allison's brother-in-law or brother.
Yeah, a brother, to take custody of his little family member.
Yeah, and she's praised as a hero for saving this baby.
And she said, and obviously being interviewed, was saying, I tried to save the family. They didn't want to listen to me. So I grabbed the baby and ran. And that was it, pretty much. And she became a hero, and she looked better in reality then than she ever looked, because she had that history of killing her own baby earlier on and stuff.
Meanwhile, Jamie and his love interest, they're about to leave, and he remarks that he hopes to never go on another boat again, and he plans on joining the church, because that was her dream of joining the church and become a maid, or become a minister, either a nurse or a teacher over there. Yeah. And she says that maybe I could be a teacher or a nurse in California, because he dreams of becoming
get into movies.
Yeah.
Yay.
Because
another celluloid hero.
Yes. And so they head off, and that I hope that they do get into the movie
it was
industry.
implied that they were going to get married, and she was going to follow him to California and let him follow his dream. Because I don't think she really wanted to go to, where's it, Minnesota?
Minnesota, yeah.
Yeah, because she's going to go after Jax. The Jax are now dead.
Yeah, and so she has him to look after her. And he plans on, looking after her very well because he loves her. He's willing to change for her.
And see, guys, if you find the right woman, okay, right.
Yeah. So that's the end, and it mentions in a in a final text how the Titanic sank and how many people have died and how many were saved.
That often shows up in this bit of your movie.
And of course, it mentions the Titanic was several times they tried to raise the Titanic, but not successfully. The end.
It's too bloody big and it's too deep. About 2.5 miles deep.
Yes.
it's in pieces. If it was whole, you might be able to pump air into it and some airbags and make it a bit more buoyant and gradually raise it to the surface. But it's in two pieces. It's going to be very awkward.
It's so weird that before this movie, everyone else thought it sank incomplete to the bottom.
Matter. You mentioned that before.
I know, but it's just weird.
What I was going to say is that the James Cameron movie actually started off with that salvage team.
Yeah.
And they'll go down there looking at the boat and everything. And I think really, was that real footage?
Yeah, it's real footage.
Yeah. So what they saw down there in James Cameron's movie, they would have known a couple of years earlier. And so that's how they got the idea for the TV movie series to actually snap it in half. Yeah.
I kind of like both of them, not comparing crosses and spots, but I do think that both really good.
In some ways, I would say the James Cameron movie's better for the special effects value.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
When I was looking at the CGI for the Titanic bits where you see it from a distance, it didn't look very realistic.
Well, yeah, but tell me.
No,
they use models, they use matte paintings, they do a bit of CGI, they do whatever. Yeah, but James Cameron had a bigger budget to work with too.
True.
Yeah. But his special effects were brilliant. But when you take the special effects away in the storylines, I think they're comparable. I mean, one was about Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet. Kate Winslet?
Kate Winslet.
Yeah, having their romance there on the boat, pretty much. That was all centered around those two.
Yeah.
Whereas the other one had at least 3 stories going, doing it slightly different. They're 2 good stories, but this one didn't rate a very good reception from the critics. I'm not even going to bother to read them. There's only 1 or 2 there, and they were saying, "Oh, I didn't like it," and blah blah blah, whatever. But it's still managed.
Could you read them for us, even though I know that
they're crap? Okay,
well, please.
I'll read them for you.
Yeah.
But I still think they're crap. Can I say crap? Okay. No.
Yeah, well, you can say crap.
The New York Daily News commented on the fact that the acting was substandard. So you're telling me Catherine Zeta-Jones and all the other guys there, George C. Scott, Tim Curry, can't act? No. I'm sorry. The guy's an idiot. Okay. And the ship's operators and owner were portrayed about as sympathetically as those connected to the Exxon Valdez. That was just the boat who did the big pollution problem, swilling oil.
Okay.
Now the point is that the crew weren't the storyline. Captain Smith was.
True.
I think he played a good austere type role as he would as a sea captain. He did his bit, and the other guys there played their roles quite well. They weren't the main roles. Got it, guys? Now, the Seattle Post-Intelligencer or whatever also referenced the embarrassing bad acting and out-of-place scenes. Out-of-place scenes, I've got no idea what he's talking about.
Me neither, considering it all takes place on a boat. For God's sakes.
Had the bit and at the beginning of it and the bit at the end of it, they were off the boat and they worked in quite nicely and told the story, filled in, and everything else worked quite well.
And considering
I've got no idea what he's talking about.
Yeah, and considering that some of the scenes, like at the opening, where we see a little bit of country estates, maybe a bit of the grungy parts of London. Considering that was probably what the grungy parts of London were like.
It's filler. You always have a little bit of filler when you're developing the story, opening and closing and stuff, and setting the mood, atmosphere. Well, yeah.
I mean, this was the environment that Charlie Chaplin was brought up in. If you bothered to watch
the old movies,
that was the atmosphere he was brought up in, supposedly.
I mean, it was grunge back in those days. Even grunge wasn't too bad. Now it was, that's horrible. Well, I grew up in a semi-detached house, a row house, almost in the city, in Sydney. And by today's standards, it was almost be slum area. Almost, not quite. Bordering on it, because it was cheap accommodation for low-income families. But the only thing that kept it a little bit above market, that people had jobs. That's it. And it wasn't a really, 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 really poor area, but it was very much a very much a working class area. So, and I grew up in that environment. And then we moved out from the city into a semi-country area, surrounded by farms and cheap housing with more poor people who were just low-income workers and stuff. So nowadays, people say, "Oh, I don't live or work in that area because these people are low-income people and they don't suit me." Nah. So yeah, it fits in the movie. It's part of the history. Get a life. Yeah. Now, getting on to it, I mentioned that the reception wasn't real good, but come along here. Awards. It received an Emmy Award for Outstanding Sound Mixing for a drama miniseries or special.
Cool.
Okay, didn't mention the acting. Okay, fine. It was also nominated for Outstanding Costume Design for a miniseries or special.
Sweet.
1997, Outstanding Sound Mixing for blah, 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 blah. They won that one. Outstanding Costume Design that was nominated for. Now, it's a telemovie. Now, I'm not comparing apples and oranges here, but telemovies don't normally shape up as good as an A-grade movie going through the cinemas.
Yeah, another interesting thing is, guys,
so,
that...
it's a different sort of...
Another interesting thing is, guys, the miniseries was shown on Brazilian television, and the title was changed. They call it Titanic 2. Don't ask me. I just heard this stuff.
No, I don't know. You did tell me.
Well, that's why I found out in this trivia.
Is it 2 or ill?
2, as in T.
No, show me. Okay, Titanic 2. Okay.
A bit weird, don't you think? Considering that the present Titanic 2 we've mentioned is a present Titanic we have at this that's being built at this very moment.
Where is that?
I get it from.
Don't know. Why would it have 2 on it? I got no
I
idea.
don't
Doesn't
know.
make sense.
It's
weird. Anyway,
it's strange.
There's nothing much to talk about production stuff. I don't know how it was done, where it was done. It was filmed in a bathtub.
I mean,
whatever.
this is it's a lot more weird than this part here, I should say. Some similar foreign video distributors market this mini-series as a sequel to James Cameron's blockbuster Titanic.
Which was made after.
Hint, hint. Doesn't make sense.
Well, they marketed it that way. They pushed James Cameron's movie first. And then floated this one on the telly. Okay?
Yeah. If it would be a bit of a big problem if it was... They both came out at the same time, or
missing a point. You are missing your point as usual. It was a 2-part television miniseries. It didn't hit the cinemas.
True.
James Cameron's was a cinema release and went around the world, and they grabbed this and put it on the television probably 6 months after James Cameron movie showed at the theatres in their respective countries. So they served it up as a sequel or whatever to the James Cameron movie because it sued them in their marketing. Okay, how do you sell something to the people? You tell them what it isn't. Okay,
got it.
There's a whole story about selling a refrigerator to an Eskimo. You don't tell him it's to make things cold. You tell him it's to make things warm. You can bring the temperature up to 0 degrees instead of 20 below.
Yeah.
So
Anyway, I do like the characters they put together in this production, and I think that the character development was pretty interesting, considering how the character Isabel. I did like her, how she was torn between the man she married
between two lovers. Sorry.
Was torn between her husband and her ex-love interest.
Who was the guy she wanted to marry all along.
Yeah, but her parents wouldn't allow it.
Because they thought he was a no-hope and won't amount to anything.
Until he showed them.
and how wrong were they?
Yeah.
Anyway, her character development was good. He had a lesser one, obviously. His wasn't as important. The Allisons had a bit of character development.
If we wanted to change, the Alice maid, the nurse, maid, nanny, was trying to do her absolute best to try to be a good influence on the children.
Trying her best to. So Alice had more of a backstory than the Allisons did, I think.
Yeah.
And obviously the young fellow, boy named James. Jamie. Well, his backstory is a poor kid on the streets, being a thief to feed himself, and he wanted to get away to America, and he had an opportunity to break away and start a new life, and he did. So they had everything you need in a movie. But again, telly movies aren't necessarily as strong as an A-grade theatrical movie, cinema movie. Yeah.
Another thing, guys, I should mention, there was another mini-series one which was sort of like, it takes place with different people's perspective. Like in the first one, it was a different person's perspective. In the second one, a different person's perspective. All at the same times, and how the different circumstances with the Titanic crashing affected their lives. And some here and there.
Anyway, we're not going to go for every movie and every documentary. We have a lot of documentaries here which I'm forced to watch on a semi-regular basis.
Hey, not every day. I mean, I do think they're interesting, especially the SS, Titanic one, the one about
the court hearing.
The court hearing about how the California was inquiring why they didn't do their duty.
Why they didn't react? It didn't assist. Yeah.
They just pretend to play silly bugger.
Well, yeah. Anyway, irrespective. This movie was chosen to be reviewed because of its popularity. So many movies, so many documentaries, TV series, blah blah, references, TV episodes.
Yeah.
It's a popular movie theme and TV theme based on the fact that it was real and people can identify with it. Mm-hmm. And the anniversary date is actually coming up this month, 110 years, I think.
Yeah.
And this new movie is coming out next week, is it? Oh, no, this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, this week. Yeah. Yeah, this week, the 14th. Yeah.
Well, it's on the 15th, actually. I have realised it's probably a day after the Titanic. But then again, the Titanic sank at midnight on the date. So
it actually sank after midnight.
Yeah. So after midnight.
In that morning, the 15th, whatever. So whatever. Yeah, it's the anniversary. This new movie's coming out. That old movie is the other movie which we're going to review, which is the Titanic 2, whatever it's called, back in 2010, which is they have a similar boat problem, but I think they get a tidal wave or a tsunami hits or something or other. A bit like Poseidon Adventure, I suppose, but the boat doesn't flip upside down.
No. But it does make for an interesting something to talk about, considering in that story they tried to make out they're ready for anything, but got all the protection.
This boat's unsinkable.
They got the protection. They got the lifeboats. They got a lot of wealthy people. Ready to
a lot of dead bodies. Yeah. Anyway, I can't wait for the Titanic 666 to come out.
Me too.
I'm looking forward to seeing how they're going to transfer this into a horror movie.
Yeah, I'm a little curious. They're calling that one not the title of the movie. I mean, the Titanic itself, Titanic Free.
666 or whatever.
No, I'm referring to the Titanic boat itself.
The boat's got 300.
Yeah, they're calling it Free, which makes me beg the question: why is it called Titanic Free?
Because maybe Titanic 2's been put in the other movie.
Maybe
it's already been sunk.
Okay, maybe that's it.
Okay, right. Okay.
Anyway, do you want to rate this movie now?
Well, wait a minute. Or
do you want to
wait a minute. Availability, folks. Yeah. Okay, here we go. Firstly, watch out for VHS tapes being a slightly older movie. Okay. And don't just put the word in Titanic and hope to get the right movie.
Yeah, bear in mind, guys.
Titanic 1996. Check your actors out on the products. Catherine Zeta-Jones, Peter Gallagher, George C. Scott, the main ones on the cover. Now, eBay has got plenty for sale, and Amazon has plenty for sale. I didn't see any renters on Amazon, but I could have missed it.
Remember the date, guys. 1996, not 1997, okay?
Yeah.
Remember that.
Yeah. And just check the actors on it. Yeah, if it's Catherine Zeta-Jones, George C. Scott, Peter Gallagher, you know you got the right one. But yeah, make sure you don't get VHS unless you're looking for it. Yeah, but there's plenty available, new and used. And for those who go elsewhere, I'm sure it'll be on other platforms to purchase. Anyway, I'm going to give this. I always try to do telemovies fairly.
Me too.
I'm going to give it 9. I can't say anything majorly wrong. I can't remember.
Except for the CGI. I know that's a small
CGI,
budget.
Yeah, but like it's a lower budget, so you're allowing for the budget constraints. I'm still going to give it a 9 out of 10. I think.
I'm going to give it 8.5 out of 10.
Yeah.
I mean, I just thought some of the CGI bits, the faraway bits, were a bit funny and weird.
Yeah, well, they use models, they use matte paintings, they use whatever they do to try and create an image. So yeah.
The rest of it, if it was close up, like if you're on the boat itself, that's okay.
Yeah.
Obviously, but the rest of the time it was a bit on the weird side. Anyway, I won't go into that.
No, it's okay. No, I think it's good.
But I do like the characters and the costumes and whatever. It's all pretty good.
And I do like the way the storyline actually went around and actually brought in characters like Astor and his missus and stuff.
Instead of
having them in the background, saying, "Oh, that's so and so over there in the corner."
Yeah,
well, they actually brought them in.
Like in the 1997 one, where they just introduced characters individually, like just say that person, his name's John Jacob Astor, and
he's a rich dude. Yeah.
He's a rich dude. Was man on the boat.
Yeah. And the only one they really had in there was Leonardo DiCaprio, his lady love, her husband,
and Molly Brown.
And
who we know.
Kate Winslet's whatever her name is in the show. Her fiance or whatever. That's it.
Because I did another interesting thing is that in one of the scenes, Molly Brown hopes to become part of the Senate, and I read somewhere Molly did try to become part of the Senate somehow. And I don't know if she got in or not. I don't think she did.
The unthinkable Molly Brown, she was supposed to be a formidable woman in her own way. I don't know how fast she got up, but yeah.
Yeah, I think she's
very outspoken lady and very strong personality. She might have got somewhere.
She did do a lot of interesting things in this movie, where she tried to comfort the passengers. She offered them furs when they're freezing cold, and
she freeze their nuts off.
Yeah, and she didn't care if she lost everything. She says that the only things that matter when she told the media was that the lifeboats were half empty. Yeah,
and she was really annoyed.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's kill it.
Yes. Okay.
It's sinking.
Don't be rude. Don't be disrespectful. Sorry. Anyway, guys, that's our latest podcast for us tonight. So I hope you guys enjoyed it and may check it out, and be sure to remember to put the date in right.
Yeah, 1990. But check the actors. Catherine Zeta-Jones, not Kate Winslet. George C. Scott. Peter Gallagher. Eva Marie Saint, Tim Curry, they're on the cover.
Yeah, bear in mind that. Think about that.
And it might actually say TV miniseries on the cover as well. We look at.
Yeah.
But check it. Otherwise, you get the James Cameron one, which is a good movie, but we're not.
Knocking that one.
We're not knocking that one, but we're reviewing. This one.
Yeah, if you guys are looking for that one and think I haven't found it anywhere, and yet you have to find the right date in.
Yeah, but make sure you get the right date. The 1 year difference makes a big difference.
Quite. So, thanks for listening to our podcast, everyone, and I hope you guys may check it out, and we all wish you all the best with your Easters. Yeah,
it's Easter time coming very soon.
Yeah. All right. Bye for now, guys.
Love you guys. Bye.